Good Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Kent Erdahl. New today, former state senator Nicole Mitchell will spend 6 months in jail for breaking into her stepmother's Detroit Lakes home. That's the sentence a judge handed down after Mitchell was convicted on 2 counts of felony burglary earlier this year. During the trial, Mitchell claimed she wasn't trying to take anything, but wanted to check overnight on her stepmother, who has Alzheimer's. But on the night of the break-in, she told police she was there to take back sentimental things like her late father's ashes. New developments today in the legal battle involving a homeless encampment in Minneapolis. The Lake Street location, owned by Hammoudi Sabri, was the site of a deadly mass shooting last week. Now, Sabri and city officials are at odds over how to move forward, and according to city attorneys, negotiations have stalled after Sabri rejected their offers. Lou Raguse has the latest.
At the vacant lot next to a charter school on 28th Avenue and East Lake Street, owned by developer Hammoudi Sabri, a Minneapolis police officer keeps watch to make sure a homeless encampment is not reestablished there. Last week, the city asked a judge for an injunction to stop Sabri from allowing encampments on his property after 7 people were shot in what police say was a drug deal that escalated to gunfire. It appears Sabri and city officials are no closer to an agreement after having met to discuss his underlying concerns. The city attorney writing, they look forward to receiving a decision from the court. Meantime, at the federal courthouse in St. Paul, Minneapolis city attorneys are asking a judge to rule in their favor in a lawsuit brought last year by former residents of what was known as the Nenokasi encampment.
The current practice of eviction and whack-a-mole in the city of Minneapolis is not working to end homelessness. It's simply moving it around and actually increasing conditions of violence towards our neighbors.
Attorneys for encampment residents say the encampment closures and the ensuing disposal of tents and belongings amounts to a violation of their constitutional rights.
The mayor has made very clear what his policies are, and at this point we're asking for a jury to take a second look and assess our clients' claims that their constitutional rights are being violated over and over and over.
Irreparable harm.
City attorneys, however, argue that the residents knowingly trespassed on city property repeatedly, including cutting through locked fences to set up the Nenokasi encampments, which ultimately ended last winter with an explosion and fire.
New today, President Trump speaking at the UN General Assembly for the first time since his return to office. During his speech in New York, the president criticized the way European countries handle immigration and the UN's approach to conflicts around the world.
What is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war.
Later in the day, Trump attended a bilateral meeting with the UN Secretary General, saying that the U.S. is standing fully behind the UN. Turning Point USA's American Comeback Tour is now heading to Virginia after stopping at the U of M last night. It was organizers' first college visit since its founder, Charlie Kirk, was assassinated while speaking at a university in Utah nearly 2 weeks ago. More than 2,000 people showed up at Northrop Hall for the event. Raya Katene has the story.
In allegiance to the United States,
our Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight.
And a Christian prayer were the starting points of the Turning Point event at the University of Minnesota.
Charlie had a great affinity for St. Michael the Archangel.
Conservative politics took center stage in the organization's first college visit since the murder of its founder, Charlie Kirk.
Thought that they could stop Charlie Kirk's movement. In reality, they have not even stopped his lecture tour.
Michael Knowles, an online conservative commentator, led the presentation inside Northrop Memorial in Kirk's absence.
People who commit murder need to be punished. People who celebrate murder need to be punished too.
Inside, Kirk's words were remembered and accompanied by a pledge to keep the activists' work alive. But outside, protesters say Kirk's words inspired division and hate.
We are not ready to accept hate in our country as the standard. And the fact that there's so many people ready to be here and hear this message and celebrate it It's terrifying.
Students who waited in line for hours say they wanted to attend Monday's event because the late 31-year-old inspired them.
Charlie was someone who made me so interested about politics from when I was a junior in high school.
And they view this moment, they say, as a turning point for the country.
I'm hoping to see people come together after all of this.
Of the people who did come out to protest Turning Point USA, they remained peaceful and there was no violence or altercations reported. A sad update today on a house fire in North Mankato. Authorities tell us that a girl who was rescued on Friday has died from the injuries she suffered. The 12-year-old girl and her mother were both airlifted to the Twin Cities after the fire early Friday morning. The girl's mother was treated for smoke inhalation and has since been released. Investigators are still trying to figure out what caused the fire, but say they believe it was an accident. We have a new development in a deadly rollover crash that claimed the life of a 1-year-old child. A St. Paul woman has been charged for allegedly driving drunk and causing the crash that killed her son. Charges say Rachel Poliquin's blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit when she lost control of her car Saturday night and rolled into a ditch along Highway 36 in Maplewood. Crews pulled her 1-year-old son from under the car. He died at the scene. 2 other kids and another adult in the car were not hurt. The family of Sophia Forchus, one of the victims in the mass shooting at Annunciation Church, has shared a positive update. They say she's improving and will move from acute care in an inpatient rehabilitation program this week. Her family notes she has a long road ahead, but is making steady progress and showing signs of neurological recovery. Sophia was shot in the head and the bullet is still lodged in her brain. Her family is asking for people to continue to pray for her recovery. Minnesota is planning to defy the federal guidance to make sure anyone who wants the COVID-19 vaccine can still get it. Days earlier, the CDC voted to drop the recommendation for healthy adults to get vaccinated. But yesterday, the Minnesota State Health Department issued an order allowing pharmacists to give the shot, legally protecting them from disobeying federal guidelines. Jennifer Hoff has a closer look.
Minnesota's weather isn't the only thing that's about to change. People like Pam may no longer be eligible for a COVID-19 shot she already got this fall, after a Centers for Disease Control and Prevention advisory panel unanimously recommended vaccination be determined by individual decision making.
They criticize very severely of saying that we are dangerous and unscientific, which is completely false. There's a lot of expertise on this committee.
The group also agreed the vaccine should be limited to people 65 and older or with underlying health conditions. That now has the state's Department of Health stepping away from federal vaccine recommendations and promoting medical associations instead, like the American Academy of Pediatrics.
I don't want to turn the clock backwards. We have made amazing advancements.
Dr. Ruth Linfield is the agency's medical director, also making a rare move, issuing an order giving pharmacists the option to provide vaccines to patients as young as 3, while recommending it for anyone over 6 months.
I think that what Minnesotans need to know is that there hasn't been any change in the safety of the vaccine that would warrant more caution. And we want to be sure that people have access to it.
Changes may be in store for some, but Pam says she'll stick to the same shot.
We believe that it's going to keep us healthy.
Happening today, shares of Tylenol maker Kenvue plummeted by 7.5% after President Trump linked the use of the drug during pregnancy to autism in an announcement on Tuesday. For years, doctors have recommended Tylenol as one of the safest painkillers during pregnancy. Trump, however, argues it should only be taken if it's absolutely necessary.
So ideally, you don't take it at all, but if you can't tough it out, or if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it.
Now, many experts say there is conflicting research on any link between acetaminophen and autism. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists called the administration's statements irresponsible and confusing and not backed by any reputable studies. Now, the makers of Tylenol say they haven't found a credible link in more than a decade of research. Tonight, Jimmy Kimmel Live will return to ABC's airwaves nearly a week after the show was pulled for comments Kimmel made about Charlie Kirk's assassination. But not all stations will be airing the show. Sinclair and Nexstar, which together operate more than 70 ABC affiliates across the United States, said they plan to keep the Kimmel Show off air for now. Fans of the show say they're just happy Kimmel will be back on air somewhere.
I feel that he has the right to have his show and say what he wants to say, just like everybody else says what they want in the United States.
And I really support the First Amendment right and our right to free speech. So, Jimmy Kimmel, thank you very much.
Kimmel is expected to address his comments surrounding Charlie Kirk in tonight's monologue. Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.